Hey, so happy to have you here talking about Spoonful of Sugar. I keep correcting myself. I keep wanting to say a spoonful of sugar.
Yeah. I think we're it's ingrained in our brains from Mary Poppins to to say that.
Which is interesting because I think that when I was thinking about it after watching it, I was like, this is very much like a dark kind of Mary Poppins.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The nanny or babysitter themes
Mm.
are definitely run parallel, but yeah, the very much darker, much more twisted, more violent version.
Now, what kind of drew you to this project?
So, we had worked with Mercedes, the director, on a project for MGM called Stargate Origins. It's actually a prequel series to the Stargate film and that whole franchise. And she sent us this script saying, "Hey, I think I want to direct this. Like, what do you guys think?" And I read it and was just immediately obsessed with the script. I was like, I've truly never read anything like this before. It is so intense and messed up, and I love it. And so we actually talked to Shudder at Cannes, I think maybe back in like 2019, I think, where we pitched it to Shudder. And then later that year, they were like, we really want to do this. And so it was like, great, everything's moving forward. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And so
Mm.
it kind of slowed things down a little bit, but we finally were able to film last year. And yeah, but it was really from the page, from Leah St. Marie's script. It just was yeah, one of the most fucked up things I've ever read, and I really wanted to see it on screen.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I was looking at reviews and this is an IMBD review, and like the headline was just like it made me feel like it was bleak and made me feel empty inside afterwards. And I'm like, that's that's not a negative. I feel like that's uh
Yeah.
but yeah, so I'm always curious, like, do you think that having experience being a director yourself, do you feel like that makes you a better producer than somebody that
I
doesn't have
I
that?
think so. I think so because I know what I would want in those situations, and I think that's actually how I first started producing was I was just helping um my director friends with their films and I knew like, oh, you need to be able to focus on this, so you need these things taken care of. And so I just like hopped in to start helping with those things. And so I know what I would want in those situations, and so I think it helps give me that perspective. And I think also just gives a helpful perspective as like a creative sounding board, and and also understanding what fights are worth fighting for, like when a director says I really need this, like understanding where they're coming from, and trying to do my best to help facilitate that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because you've been in the trenches, what they're going through. So yeah, I can definitely see that. Now, how creatively involved are you as a producer?
So I like to be involved like from the very beginning, from script stage if possible. It depends on the project of like when I get brought on and when it gets sent to me. But yeah, I like to be involved in the creative. I mean, I see myself as a facilitator or a midwife where like I am helping the director birth their baby, and I'm helping trying to facilitate their vision for what they want that birth to be like, as much as possible. So, but like, I'm also coming in with a lot of knowledge from producing a ton of features and shorts. And so I try to bring those like kind of midwife skills of like, okay, I know like, that these things might be coming down the pike. So let's like look at those. Let's, try to get ahead of this. This problem just came in. Here are 3 or 4 different solutions. Which would you prefer? Trying to kind of approach everything as a creative problem solver, and try to always provide options if possible.
Yeah, it's funny because I talked to some of my filmmaker friends and they just describe it as like a series of fires you need to put out, and then somehow it comes together as one cohesive project. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, no matter how much you anticipate and how much you prep, there's inevitably things that come up that were unexpected, and sometimes there are literal fires. But but no, I mean it's helping take care of those fires so that the director is able to just focus on the story and the actors and what their vision is, and hopefully are not worrying about all those things. I had a director friend tell me that I was like the knight outside of the castle, like holding the dragon off while like the princess was inside, like trying to get all of her stuff together. So yeah.
no, that's like a great way to put it. So this movie has a lot of really interesting themes, but the one I kind of want to ask you about is like the drug element, which of course is a big part of this movie, but also I think it's fascinating because it's an open dialogue about treating mental illness with microdosing. So what do you feel about that? Like, are you like, would you say this movie is like pro um drugs for that use? Or
That's a great question. I feel like it keeps the stance vague, where it's not like, seeing this as like this is a negative thing that's going to ruin everyone, or like this is the savior that's going to like save everything. I feel like, the conversation is actually like a lot more nuanced with, how these things can help and, and hurt. And I think like one of the biggest things that comes up is like informed consent. And so, I think in terms of just general life, I think that there is research being done that shows that it can really help some people, but obviously like those people need to be able to consent to that and be of age.
yeah, I was gonna say I don't think this is a spoiler, but let's just say like a kid does go on a little trip and yeah, which I don't think I've ever seen in a movie, which I think is fascinating. And I've seen a few movies, as you can probably tell. It's always fun to see something interesting, new. I think what y'all bring to like I guess like a head movie, like the trippy kind of stuff is really interesting because again, I love how it's layered with these really thought-provoking themes about, again, mental health and drug treatment, but also like motherhood is a huge theme in this. And I'm sure that's something that kind of resonates with you quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm 8.5 months pregnant right now, so
Mm.
it's something that definitely I think has become more like even more relevant with those themes as I've gone through this process of becoming a mother. But yeah, I think these themes of family and how you choose your family, how to force a family. And also the expectations and kind of societal pushes around like what a family should be considered, what like a woman coming into a family, like what her responsibilities are. Like Millicent's perception of the world is really fascinating to me, and it totally makes sense from someone being younger. I look back to like what I thought being a woman was, what being a mother was, what being a wife was, from like when I was in high school, and like what I thought those things were and what I thought, I had to do to achieve those is so different than what I think now. But it's clear, like Millicent's perspective is one that is very much of that time, and has been warped by the trauma that she's experienced. And so there's also like a lot of like trauma processing through family in a way that is also uh interesting, and I think there's lots to be mind in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so by the time this comes out, this will be streaming on Shudder, which it's like I said, this movie's great. You all should check it out. You also have another movie coming out this month, correct? The Park.
Yes, yeah, we actually have. They're releasing the same day, so they're both releasing March 2nd. The park will be available on different VOD platforms like Amazon and iTunes
Nice.
and kind of thing.
Yeah, that is another one that looks fascinating. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I definitely want to rent that, support it. It looks awesome. What can fans expect from the park? Can you give us a little tease on that one?
Sure, yeah, it's a kind of post-apocalyptic sci-fi film about a world where anyone that hits puberty is dead. So all the adults are dead, and all the children have a ticking clock on them where as soon as they hit puberty, they're going to die from this virus that has taken over. And so it's a little bit of Lord of the Flies, but meets Peter Pan. So there is an element of hope to it where these kids are, like killing each other and kind of, fighting over the remaining resources. But one kid realizes that it's really important for them to remember the joy of childhood and to like take advantage of the time of being kids. And so, yeah, there's this kind of positive, hopeful thread throughout, despite it sounding so dark.
So it's funny because like the poster art kind of reminds me of like the last Last of Us episode. Do you watch that?
I've watched the game. I actually haven't watched the show yet, but it's on my list.
Okay, so I won't say anything, but yeah, it was kind of like it had that sort of like dystopian wasteland, but it was like in an arcade, so it kind of had like a so that was cool.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, just to wrap up, what would you want audiences to take away from a Spoonful of Sugar?
I mean, I think like, first just to like have like to go on the wild ride because it is a wild ride. It's will take you in unexpected places. And so I think just to enjoy the ride. But like hopefully it also opens up a dialogue around around microdosing, around mental health, around family, around some of these things. But I think, even without like those things, I think just enjoying the ride of it will be fun enough, but there's also a lot to, intellectualize as well.
Yeah, and I love movies like that. I love stuff that is like on one level just a really good like thriller, like scary, weird, but then again, it's like not just, empty. It does have interesting layers and meanings. And I think that like that goes for like a lot of the movies you produce. Again, in the behind you, like some of my favorite movies from the last couple years. So
Thank you.
yeah, Werewolves Within, love it. I have to say, for real quick, I need a Werewolves Within Wolf of Snow Hollow crossover.
Yeah, it is really funny. We had to, those like came like we shot those in consecutive years, and we talked about like how do we not get pigeonholed as the werewolf producers. But there is, there's like, they're completely different movies, but they're both horror comedies in a way about that have werewolves in them. And so I think there's lots to be explored there. I mean, Jim and Josh are friends, so you never know.
Well, like in my brain, they are connected. So well, thank you so much. I wanted to also just say again, you all can check out Spoonful of Sugar on Shudder. I will be sure to link all that information, as well as where you can rent the park, which is also coming out the same day, which is really exciting. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.